A lot of us have this thought that there's a right way or a correct way or one way. And it's a fixed way of thinking in our heads where we're looking at everything in the world, we're orienting ourselves in the world as looking at everything like it's a problem that can be solved. Hey guys, Greg Chaplin here, physical therapist and strength conditioning specialist. And if you haven't been to the channel before, most of the videos here are about improving movement and posture. And we'll typically go through either some exercises or we'll talk through a common scenario or common mistakes. And we'll try to give you some information about how you can improve your movement and posture by using some of these techniques or understanding some of these situations. But in this video, I want to go through and talk about something a little bit different, which I've been thinking about a lot, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, I'm not sure, which is the connection between mindfulness, posture, and movement. So this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, something I don't talk about a lot because it's a little bit uncomfortable both for me and I think for most people to talk about this. In fact, a lot of people I don't even think are aware that there could be a connection, or they'll deny that there is a connection. So if that's you, I hope you'll stick around for the video and watch. And if you're someone who has some thoughts about this, I hope that you can post down in the comments and we can continue the conversation there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So I wanted to start off by saying that for me personally, understanding or admitting that there was any sort of a correlation between our state of mind, our ability to be mindful, and how we move or how we hold ourselves in space, that was something that was really tough for me to admit. And it took me probably about 10 years. So if that's you and you're not there yet, I totally understand that. And I hope that you'll continue to watch this video. And maybe even if you can't fully understand what I'm saying, and I'm sure I won't be perfectly clear on this topic because it's a little bit esoteric, I hope that you can take a couple of things from this video and maybe start to expand your perspective or your state of mind. And if you're someone out there who already understands that there's a connection here, I hope that you'll help us continue this conversation down below. So most people think about movement in this very mechanical way. So we think about, we have a mechanical body that's pulleys and levers. So we think about bones and muscles, and that's what moves us. And certain things are tight and certain things are weak and certain things need to be strengthened. And we got to pull this bone into this position and we got to align things. And that's how most people think about movement because that's what we're used to thinking. And this was what I thought for a long, long time. So, first I became a personal trainer and I was really thinking about that strength and position and alignment, that kind of a perspective. I went to get my doctorate in PT, and there, again, it was very much a pulleys and levers kind of mindset. A little bit later, once I realized that this wasn't really helping me to improve my movement in the way that I wanted to, I started to get into this model of looking at things from sensory processing. So the concept being that you take sensations from the outside environment, whether that be through tactile input through your feet or visual input through your eyes or auditory input through your ears. Take that information, you process it, and then in processing it, you produce this motor output. And so this is a little bit more of a refined way to look at things that takes into account the sensory piece of the organism, but we're still thinking about things from this standpoint of just movement. So we're thinking, okay, we got this organism that's not moving, and so we want to tweak the sensory input, and we also want to put things into the right position. So we're still thinking in this way where we have a problem with the organism, and there are ways that we can adjust things in order to solve this problem. A lot of us have this thought that there's a right way or a correct way or one way. And it's a fixed way of thinking in our heads where we're looking at everything in the world, we're orienting ourselves in the world as looking at everything like it's a problem that can be solved. And in doing this, we create this perpetual sense of tension in our mind where we're never really in the moment. We're never in the now because we're always reaching for that solution. So this kind of reaching is something that is not only going to happen from a psychological standpoint, but it's also going to be mirrored physically. And so if you've watched the channel before, just to give an example, one of the things you'll hear me talk about, for example, is a forward head. And so what a forward head is, we're really pushing ourselves forward in space. You can think of it as reaching forward with the head instead of allowing space to come to us and having this position where we kind of sit back and we just allow things to come to us. We're striving for things. And so if you're into mindfulness or you're going to get into mindfulness, one of the things you'll hear is, taking a half step back or unhooking or whatever they use to describe going from that state of reaching and pushing and striving with the mind to just sitting back and noticing that that is just an object in your greater consciousness, not so much that that is you. And so when we become identified with being those thoughts, and those thoughts are that we're looking for what's next, we're reaching forward, we're striving, then we think that's who we are. And that is not actually who we are. Who we are is what that's appearing to. Just the same way as we can have this tension that's pushing us forward day after day, moment after moment, but we don't recognize that that's actually occurring because we think that's who we are. That's our default state. That's how we position our head in space. That's normal to us. And so if we learn how to relax that tension and just drop back a little bit and start to notice that that tension is there, oftentimes there's a physical shift in the head back. And then it's like, oh, wow, there's a sense of relief there. What's going on there? And if we can just not try to solve any more problems once we're there, we can usually get some good results. But then that problem solver brain kicks in and it says, go ahead, solve that problem. There's a problem to solve. And then that psychological tension gets mirrored by the mechanical tension. Next thing we know, we're reaching forward again. So now we've talked about this mirrored aspect of how we are mentally and how we are physically, and those two things having some corresponding features. And now I want to get into talking about how ways of training and postures and positioning and methods tend to be stylized. And this term stylized is something I picked up from Alan Watts, who I had no idea who that was just a couple of weeks ago, but his talks were in this meditation app that I've been using. And so I started exploring some of his talks, and much to my amazement, he starts talking about posture, which I actually thought was hilarious. So I'm going to read you a quote that he says, and I think this is just so relevant. So Alan Watts says, "We're all brought up to try to conform ourselves to fixed patterns of what a human being ought to be. One of the ways in which it happens is how we ought to move and hold ourselves physically. We talk about postures. What's the right way to sit? The right way to stand? The right way to use one's hands? Of course, it doesn't strike us that all these things are very stylized. And if they don't correspond in any way with what our physical organism actually wants to do, the adoption of these stylized postures is going to cause conflict between what we try to be and what we are." And I thought this was just an amazing quote for a lot of reasons, because if we look at any sort of a training style, we get these specific cues or these specific activities, and we look at that and we say, is this the way? Is this the right way? Is this the new way? Is this the best way? And then we try to conform to that mold because we think this is the right way, the correct way, the best way, however you want to look at it. So whether your concept of posture is, chest up, shoulders back, and you're very postured like a ballerina or an equestrian, or if you're someone who's like, I got to get into this flexed position so I can let my, system relax, and you say, that I'm putting my eggs in this basket or this basket, and if that's not the right basket for you and your body, and you push yourself to fit into that basket instead of collecting some data or finding a way to collect some data, then you can adopt these very stylized training methods or these stylized positions or postures. And so if we lack the baseline mindfulness to feel, yeah, what I'm doing right now is not in alignment with what my organism actually wants, then we can just push ourselves down these holes of compensating in movement or, layering on limitations or strengthening limitations that we have instead of improving our movement and reducing these limitations. It's because we're trying to fit ourselves mentally into this box because we want it to make sense. It might make us feel good that there is this one particular way or the correct way or the right way. And so we try to fit ourselves into that box, but we don't listen to what our body actually wants. And then in doing that, we create this further conflict, and then next thing we know, we're feeling frustrated. That produces tension in the body. And then it's this perpetual cycle of just doing something, feeling like it's not working, continuing to do something, continuing to feel like it's not working, getting frustrated, creating tension. And really, if we can just take that half step back and do one thing and then notice, like, okay, what is the actual response of that one thing? Instead of forcing ourselves to do what is the new way or the best way or the correct way, if we can just try to narrow down the probabilities as to what's actually going to help us and then do that and then see what our response is and then think, okay, how did we respond to that? And let's just be mindful of how we responded. Objective tests also help this, by the way. But having that baseline level of mindfulness will help you to understand, is this actually what my body wants or is this something else? So thanks a lot for watching the video, guys. If you have any thoughts at all, leave them down below in the comments. Hopefully we can continue this conversation. If you're someone that's looking to improve movement, posture, and alignment, feel free to head over to the website and book in on a call. And if we're a good fit, I'll let you know. If not, I will try to point you in the right direction. Until next time, thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.